Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or whatever time you're watching this. Welcome, technically, to a Darktide video. If you clicked on it, you probably know from the title. Damage, yeah, if you read here, I have my very professional slides. This is an unscripted video, so there's no real script. I'm just going to be yakking off my head and basically off the notes I wrote down. Did you know some people will go in and edit out all their breathing in videos? That's crazy. I won't be doing that, but some people do that. Anyway, as you can see here, damage does not equal identity. My very professional slides, or more like damage shouldn't equal identity. Basically, I think that the damage numbers in the game are too. How do I put this? I'm not saying that high damage is bad. I'm just saying all the classes have sort of turned into your only value is the damage you bring, right? So I'd like other ways to express value in a class's kit, abilities, weapons, that aren't just how fast you can kill a crusher, okay? So, the intended identities of each class, okay? Now, some people are going to disagree with me, and I probably disagree with myself if I, thought about it for, another day. These are not airtight, these are not watertight, these are just general short little descriptions, okay? The identity of the Ogre is a massive man, massive health pool made for shoving around enemies, protecting his team, really getting in there, beating up style guy. You know, he's just being a big man and using your weight to throw around on the battlefield, right? Veteran, marksman with enough firepower to cut down hordes and be able to take out elites in the back line. Pretty self-explanatory, right? He's got the plasma gun, lash guns, he's got really good range, obviously he has more headshot damage with stuff like skills. Right, pretty generic, right? He's your Johnny Call of Duty. Then we have the Zealot, a religious fanatic who dives into combat with faith and fury, cutting through hordes like butter, right? We all know it. Zealot gets, I've said this from the beginning of the game till now, if there's a Zealot, there's a way. Arguably the most powerful class in the game right now. Some people say Ogren is, I don't know. Then the Psyker. Powerful Psychic uses their mind to manipulate the battlefield, and even if they aren't the most tanky unit, they can hold hordes at a standstill and put out an crazy amount of damage, right? Pretty self-explanatory. Now, to my next thing. Who lives up to it? Well, kinda just the Ogre and the Vet. Mostly. Now, what I mean by this is the identity of the Zealot and the Psyker. Vet also is somewhat iffy on it. He's got some issues, but generally he's about 60% there, and I think Ogren's pretty on the nose. Zealot and Psyker are kind of just damage. They've been reduced down to damage characters, right? They both use the dueling sword, the two-shot crushers, they got mad crit rate, right? We all know, I've seen more gun Psykers than I have other Psykers in high-level Havoc. You pretty much only see Psykers running the bubble shield, so it's they don't have much going for them in terms of, what's the term? What's the term? Not viability. Oh man, what's the term? I'm stupid. What's the term? Compatibility? No. What's the unique builds or whatever? What is the term? Holy moly. Anyway, essentially they don't have a lot of different builds going on. They've been shoehorned into this one existence, right? And it's you're either taking the bubble shield or the relic. So they pretty much can be broken down to the same thing. Just one is the bubble shield, one is the relic, right? Man, that word's gonna bother me now. Is this a problem? Yes and no. High damage builds are fine. As I said earlier, I'm fine with high damage. It is a horde shooter after all, a PvP, not a PvP, a PvE or horde shooter, right? So everyone likes to do a lot of damage. But cornholing classes just to be damage numbers when there's so many interesting ways to express their identity, right? Zealot's a preacher. We have enough, we have a Psyker, right? There's so many ways we can put that into the game. And what's lacking? In my opinion, this is my opinion. Opinion alert. Okay? Let me know your opinions in the comments below if you're still watching. For the Zealot, his main identity is a melee fighter. And that's fine. Once again, I like I like that. I like playing the Zealot, getting in the business. But I'd like to have ways for him to lean into the more preacher religious identity, because he is a zealot after all. You know, not all zealots are like getting in there in the fight. Some of them are, you know, praying. And yes, I understand. As I said here, there's the relic, but that doesn't really count, right? And then for the Psyker, there's so many Psyker subtypes. There's probably a Luton video about them. Psykers can shift reality and be incredibly volatile. And there's biomancers, pyromancers, seers, navigators. Technically, it's just so many. And I'd like more. Obviously, can't get navigator representation, but I'd like more like feelings to like what the Psyker can do. You know, there's so many options, and it's just kind of like you're a bubble dome, you're using the perk staff or the void strike, right? And you're always using the dueling sword. That new, you know, you gotta kill the crushers. Pardon me while I take a sip of peach tea. And here's kind of my idea on how to express the Zealot and the Psyker in more ways than just being damage numbers, while still having them have viability on the team and provide a noticeable benefit to existing other than just killing the Crusher. Right? They'll still have their ability to do damage here, so I'm not saying they shouldn't do damage. It just, this sort of, maybe in exchange for incredibly, like, two-shotting the Crusher, maybe, like, they 3 or 4-shot it, but they help their team out so much that they don't even notice. Buffs and debuffs. There are a lot of buffs for allies in the form of like toughness, percentage crit, percentage damage with like Bone Breaker, Seer's Presence or whatever, and you know, Blazing Piety or whatever it's called, where it's, you have obviously the Shout, you have the Relic, you have, you know, like whenever an ally kills an elite, they get the toughness back, or you know, whenever you kill an elite, allies get toughness, all that sort of nonsense. But I wish there was a way to give active buffs, not including stims. Obviously, stims are different. And what I mean by an active buff, I don't mean like, oh, the relic, you know, gives allies 10% damage. That's not what I'm talking about. Well, closer, but not exactly. And there aren't a lot of debuffs in the game in general other than stagger, impact, and brittle, which is fine. And then there's like some skills like the taunted enemies take more damage, but we can maybe expand on ways to apply those and have it be a little more active. Other than stagger and impact, which is just, you know, beating things with a hammer, but you know what I'm saying. So here's like one of my proposals, which is a new weapon for the Zealot. Instead of a new subclass, new weapon, because we have enough subclasses. We don't need any more, so we need more weapons in the pool. Because having a bigger weapon pool that's not just more guns would help benefit everybody. It's the standard, or religious pyre, whatever you want to call it. It's a large two-handed melee weapon that would allow a zealot to wield a pistol, so like a las pistol, auto pistol, bolt pistol, with it out, so it can like have the standard, and it's, you know, like we hold this ground in the name of the Primarch from Space Marine 2. You know what I'm talking about. This weapon would allow the Zealot to choose from 3 prayers. Now, this is just a concept. Obviously, it's not going to get in the game. To recite. Zealot begins the channel, singing the praise of the Emperor, and if the channel goes uninterrupted, the buff goes out. So the first one, I would call it Blazing Piety. This will cause ally attacks to set enemies on fire and increase their cleave by pierce by 100%. Now, obviously, this would last maybe like 5 seconds or something. So it's like, you know, you channel it real quick, boom, everyone gets a bonus, and you all start fighting. Now, when I say that would allow the Zealot to wield a pistol, I mean at the same time. So you'd still be able to wield a normal weapon, but you'd have to weapon swap. You know what I'm saying? If you wanted to bring out the standard. And as for its attack pattern, I don't know, probably have to be a unique one. And then this one, like the next one is Emperor Give Me Speed. Channel gives allies speed boost, action speed, attack speed, movement speed. Pretty generic, right? Just the fast. And then these would all have like mini cooldowns within them in my head. So like you couldn't just spam Emperor Give Me Speed and blast through an area. I don't know how long the cooldowns would be. I didn't really think about the times or whatever. But then the third and the strongest buff, which has the shortest duration and the longest channel in cooldown, would be Faith is My Shield. This gives ally regenerating temporary HP that exists over their current wound, even if that wound is corrupted, right? So if you're at, one wound, 50% corrupted, you channel this, you get that extra however much HP the wound is worth without corruption, and it like regenerates slowly after you take damage. And then when an ally passes the damage check or whatever, they get the HP and 50% of their current wounds corruption healed, right? This kind of weapon is like, once again, it's doesn't take away the power of the Zealot from getting in there, but it's more like, okay, this is more of a, not necessarily a backline, but like getting in there and inspiring your allies against the hordes of the undead to cleanse the heretic, mutant, and the alien, and just really apply more value than just two-shotting a crusher with a dueling sword. And I think it would be like sick, right? Sorry, I forgot to breathe there. Let me take another sip of my drink. Then, I couldn't think of a name for this biomancer, whatever you want to call it, debuff applier, whoever. Psyker has a lot of CC with stuns and stagger, but I think it's a perfect class to hand out debuffs en masse, right? So this is kind of a new concept weapon. I couldn't think of another like debuff, so I'm just working within the system that we have. Navigator staff, it doesn't have to be that, it just came to my head. This weapon shoots out a massive wave, putting a dot on enemies, just kind of like Soul Blaze or whatever. In my head, it's kind of like I see it as like the Psyker's Force Sword attack. That's like the swoosh, right? Or if you played Warhammer Rogue Trader, kind of like Cassius staff, that big cone. And it'd be something like you charge up. So its primary attack would still be shooting little balls, but then the secondary would be this like charged up wave that you shoot out. And enemies hit with this will be hit with a dot. And after 3 seconds sound right in my head, maybe 5 seconds would be better, I don't know. It builds into a mark. After 3 seconds, the mark applies 75% brittleness. Then an ally pops this mark. So like if you veteran headshot a marked target, the target gets a burst of damage. So like if it doesn't die from the shot, it takes even more damage. And enemies with a mark that are killed will reapply the mark to nearby enemies and give the killer 5 HP back. Now 5 HP is not a lot, but if you smack it over a horde and you got an Ogryn, Gunlugger Ogryn, all of a sudden he's from like 1 HP or whatever up to almost full, depending how big the horde is, right? And that in my head, it's just like it's a way for the Psyker to, one, it's a new staff for the Psyker, which is something we need, and it's a unique staff since it won't be a damage staff. It'll be closer to the lightning staff, kind of like, well, not really a CC staff, but like it's a horde clear staff, but the Psyker's not the one clearing the horde. Now, it would still obviously do damage, because you don't want it to not do damage. You want the Psyker to be able to use it a little bit. But it'd be mostly like dot damage. Kind of like the perk staff in a way, I guess. And that way this helps the Psyker. Sorry, I looked away to yawn. That's why my model went to bugging. It's just a unique way for the Psyker to like do some stuff, and it provides more utility to the team that's just not a bubble shield or toughness regen. It's like, okay, this is a way to like get my enemy's health back, or my allies' health back. Now it's only 5 HP. You could reduce it to even more, to like 2 HP. It wouldn't heal corruption, but I think it'd be something that could be unique. Also, let me just see, you can see the HP there. Alright, and to wrap up this 13-minute rant, basically, as I said, I'm not upset that classes have high damage. I just wish that Zealot and Psyker players have more ways to express value rather than how fast I can kill a crusher. Take a shot for every time I've said that this video. And opens up more variety of play styles. And obviously, we just need new weapons. I'd like unique weapons as well. Instead of just like, because the Psyker, let's be honest with the Psyker. Psyker kind of just gets everyone else's scraps, and the Zealot kind of gets the veteran scraps sometimes. So having more unique weapons for these classes would be a boon for, well, everyone, actually. So yeah, let me know what you think. Was really just like getting into 2 weapons I propose, and then just like my whole thing of like I wish there was more playstyle. Kind of a bit of a nothing burger video at the end. But if you made this far in the video, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, or don't. I am not your mother, but you better brush your teeth and have a good one. Bye bye.